I've just had my latest blood test results have arrived today, and I'm going to talk about those. Some of it's good and some of it's not quite so good. Hi there, my name is Sue. Welcome to my channel. If you've not been here before, I've been eating a carnivore diet now for coming up 2 years, and I have been eating a high-fat carnivore diet for 6 weeks, just over 6 weeks now. I actually started on the 27th of February. So the reason for trying the high-fat carnivore diet was because high fat can help with hormonal health and all that sort of thing, and I have, a bit of a sluggish thyroid. I've discovered in some recent testing, and I'm also really wanting to lose some weight, and I thought that might just help a little bit. And also with the whole mental health side of things, I have issues with anxiety, and although that's quite a lot better now, it's still a thing. And so I thought that the high-fat version of carnivore might help. Now, at the same time, I also switched to eating 3 meals a day. And the reason for that was because I thought I would try that and see if it helped to lower my insulin levels, because my thought was that eating too much protein at once might be kind of kicking off my blood sugar levels a bit, just via gluconeogenesis. Nearly couldn't say that. And I wondered if that might be keeping my insulin levels up a little bit, and maybe a little bit of insulin resistance. So I just thought I'd do an experiment and see how what happened. Now, what I noticed initially was that my gallbladder really wasn't working very well. That was my biggest issue to start with. I had quite bad diarrhea, and it lasted for about probably three and a half weeks, I guess, which is kind of longer than normal. And so it really made me realize that my gallbladder has probably not been working very well for quite a long time. I did quite a lot of listening to different people talking about gallbladder issues, and realized that was a thing. So I've actually been taking TUDCA, and it is working brilliantly. So I will pop a link to TUDCA down below the video if you want to try it. When I first started taking it, I couldn't find any kind of definitive information on when to take it, and so I was taking it on an empty stomach because I thought that maybe it might make things worse if I took it with food, the same as ox bile did. But it turns out that taking it with food, at least for me, was the way to go, because once I switched from having it on an empty stomach where it was making me feel nauseous and I still had diarrhea and I was still feeling pretty crappy, to having it with food, it's just completely changed everything, and it's amazing. And I can eat huge amounts of fat now without getting diarrhea, which is brilliant. So I had some blood tests done in February, and I had a fasting insulin test done, and then I wanted to repeat that again to see what had changed in the 6 weeks. So I had an insulin test done on Monday, and I also had some liver function tests done because I wanted to see where my liver function was at, make sure that everything was okay, because I'm pretty damn sure that when I started on this journey that I probably had quite a fatty liver. I'd had a lot of years of drinking way too much alcohol, mostly wine, and also eating copious amounts of fruit. And so the whole fructose causing fatty liver thing, I think may have been a contributor, even though I wasn't eating much in the way of processed foods. I did eat lots and lots of fructose in the form of fruit. So I'm kind of wondering whether that might have been a thing as well, but at least I'm pretty sure that the wine would have been a problem. So I wish I'd had some liver function tests done prior to starting carnivore. I wish I'd had a lot of tests done prior to starting carnivore so I could compare them. But I just at least wanted to get the test done now to see where things were at and just see if there was anything going on. So as I said, those test results came through this morning, and they weren't quite what I expected. So the liver function tests, I'll talk about those first, and I'll pop them up on the screen. So my liver function tests are fantastic. I had the basic liver function tests, and I also had an AST. Our basic group of tests here has an ALT as well. So the ALT is the only one that's very slightly out of range. So, and it's only out of the optimal range. So I have Ken Berry's Common Sense Labs book, and so when I get my lab test results, I compare them with the information that's in his book. And I've quite often got to convert them because here in New Zealand we use, for example, picomoles per litre, and in America they'll use international units per milliliter for some tests, that sort of thing. Luckily, there's lots of really good converting calculators online now, so it makes it really easy. So I'm going to talk about the tests. As I said, I'll pop them up on the screen, my results, so you can see. So as you can see, my the liver function tests are at the top, and so my bilirubin was 7. The optimal range, according to Common Sense Labs, is 1.71 to 15.39. So I'm kind of bang in the middle of that optimal range, which is cool. So the alkaline phosphatase, you'll see, is 88. The reference interval on the test is 40 to 130, but according to Common Sense Labs, optimal is 70 to 100. So I am nicely within the range there. GGT is 0 to 50, I am 18, and the optimal range, according to Common Sense Labs, is between 10 and 30, so sitting at 18 is good. Now the ALT, so the ALT is alanine transaminase, transaminase, I don't know how you pronounce it. So that's the only one that's just very slightly out. So my result is 29. The reference interval, according to the test, as you can see there, is between 0 and 55, so I'm well within that range. But according to Common Sense Labs, the optimal range is 10 to 26, so I'm just slightly a little bit high of the optimal range according to Common Sense Labs, but I'm still perfectly happy with that, and I'll probably test it again, maybe in 6 months or so, and see where that's at. So the AST, I'm 23. So the AST and the ALT, according to Common Sense Labs, are 2 tests to do to check for fatty liver disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So that's why I wanted to have those ones done, because apparently they'll be out of whack if you, mostly anyway, if you have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So the AST, as you can see, is 23, and the reference range is 0 to 50, but optimal is between 10 and 26, so I am within that range there as well. Total proteins at 70, the reference range is 60 to 80, and Common Sense Labs says optimal is between 69 and 74, so I'm just nicely in there as well. Albumin 41, reference range 34 to 48, and the optimal range, according to Common Sense Labs, is 40 to 48. So at 41, I'm doing okay there. And the globulin at 29, the reference range is 25 to 35, and optimal, according to Common Sense Labs, is 24 to 48. So once again, I'm nicely within the range there. So I'm really happy with those liver tests. I wasn't sure what the result would be coming back. I thought within almost 2 years on Carnivore, I'm sure that things would have improved lots from what they were, because I really suspect that my liver probably wasn't great when I started on this journey, and so I'm really happy with those results. But when we come down to the next ones, not quite so happy. So they've given me a fasting glucose result at 6.3, which is within our reference interval of 3 to 7.8. But when I had a fasting glucose done last time, it was about 5. I think it was about 5.3, something like that, and my HbA1c was 5.3 or 5.4. So I'm kind of like, but I'm not too worried about that, but it's the insulin. So the insulin came in at 105 picomoles per litre, which converts to 15.12 international units per milliliter. Now, in September last year when I had it done, I came in at 82 or 11.8, and in February I came in at 7.6 or 11.3. So my insulin had been improving, and now it's gone backwards after eating 3 meals a day of high-fat carnivore for the last 6 weeks. So that kind of took me by surprise a little bit. I didn't really expect that to happen. I was kind of hoping for the opposite. So I'm picking that it is because I've been eating 3 meals a day, and so I've been diving quite a bit into the topic of lipedema, because I've kind of realised that I do have that. And so lipedema is thought now by those who are actually experts, the experts who actually dive into the real information on this, it's thought to be potentially a hyperinsulinemia disease, and insulin has a lot to do with it. So I'm kind of wondering whether this is all part of the reason why it's gone up a bit. The other thing that may have contributed is that I've been actually having bone broth protein powder that I've been consuming off and on, and I've been having that at night time with some butter blended into it. Now it's sweetened with monk fruit, and I'm kind of wondering whether that's raising my insulin as well after having that. So I had decided, like, once we finished this protein powder, that I'm not going to buy any more. Hubby and I, it's become a bit of a habit over the last couple of weeks to have that at night time with some butter blended in, and it's, I was thinking last night this is probably not really a good idea. And so, yeah, I kind of suspecting that that might have something to do with it as well. So I'd been kind of mulling over whether to continue with the 3 meals a day or not. The reason that I wanted to try the 3 meals was because of the sluggish thyroid thing. So, you know, you get a lot of comments from well-meaning people that are watching my videos, and it's great. I love your comments. I love reading through them and answering them, and I glean so much information from the comments that people leave. But there's always like different thoughts on different things. And, you know, a lot of people had said when I said that my thyroid was sluggish that I shouldn't be fasting. And so that was one of the reasons I thought, well, I'll try the 3 meals a day and see how I go. But, you know, the intermittent fasting, I'd been intermittent fasting before I started on Carnivore, and had actually been slowly losing some weight doing that. I didn't kind of realize how much weight I'd lost until I kind of looked back. And so I think I was probably down about 10 kilos or so from my heaviest since we've been back in New Zealand, just doing the intermittent fasting for a couple of years. And looking at the information on lipedema, intermittent fasting and even extended fasting works quite well generally with lipedema. So I'm kind of pretty much planning to head back to, at the moment, a maximum of 2 meals a day, probably sometimes 1 meal a day again, because that's what I was doing before. And then I'm going to try some more extended fasting as well. The problem that I had with extended fasting before was every time I broke my fast, I would get diarrhea like within 10 minutes of eating, and so that was why I stopped it. But now my gallbladder seems to be just working almost perfectly, and I'm going to continue taking the TUDCA probably for quite a while, I think, to make sure, because TUDCA helps to heal your liver, helps your gallbladder, helps to thin the bile if your gallbladder's got sludgy bile, which is often the problem with when gallbladders aren't working properly, or with gallstones or gravel. It's usually because your bile is sludgy. And it can be also if you've had SIBO or SIFO or Candida, the bile ducts can be blocked up by those as well. So I'm kind of picking that it was something in there that was the problem with my gallbladder, and I think that it's been an issue for a very long time. So I kind of think that I probably need to take the TUDCA for a while to reverse all of that and make sure that it's okay. But so far so good. The TUDCA seems to be doing amazing things once I started actually having it with food. So if you decide to try TUDCA, try it both ways. You know, if you decide to have it on an empty stomach, if it's upsetting you after about a week or so, then I'd suggest having it with food, or try it at different, you know, maybe, you know, an hour before food, or half an hour before food, or 10 minutes before food, or 10 minutes after food, or half an hour after food. Just experiment and see what actually is going to work for you. With me, I actually take it now with my meal. So I'll have the first bite of my meal, and then I'll have some TUDCA, and it seems to work really well. So the other thing that I did over the weekend was I actually bought some yogurt and berries, which I haven't had since I've been on the high-fat carnivore diet. And the reason that I did that was I was just wanting something that was to settle my head down. I did a post talking about, you know, food addictions and stuff, and the whole being able to manage cravings or what's going on in your head. So for me, like, I mean, at this point in carnivore, it's not really a craving as such, but it's more a mindset thing. So I've realized over my carnivore journey, and it's been really noticeable in like doing this high fat, lower protein, is that I have a real mental thing with the portion sizes. it doesn't really surprise me, when I mean, listening to Kelly Hogan and different ones, they talk about how some people need to be able to activate those stretch receptors when they're eating to feel satiated. I think that that's a thing for me as well, but it's also just the mental side of feeling like you're missing out. And I don't know whether that's because I'm the oldest of 5 children, and so I started off having it all and then eventually had to share with the others, and so it's kind of making sure that you're, getting enough all the time, or what that is. But it's definitely a thing, and so it was really noticeable, especially when I first started doing the lower protein amounts, splitting it over 3 meals, and I'm having dinner at night time. Like breakfast and lunch I can handle, but when it comes to dinner at night, and you're looking at this little piece of meat on my plate, and I'm just like, oh, and I'm really struggling with even though I was feeling satiated, the satiety was good. I just was struggling with that mental side of looking at that's my meal and it looks like an entree, So, so I was struggling with that a bit, but I kind of came good with that mostly. But then over the last couple of weeks, I've just had just wanting something different, and so I opted for yogurt and berries because it's better than heading down some other paths, and I know that I can have that for a couple of days until it's gone, and then I can stop. And so that's what I did. But some people might say, well, that's what's potentially caused the insulin problem. But I was eating yogurt and berries, a lot more yogurt and berries, when I had my last 2 insulin tests done. So it's not there. But the thing that I did notice eating the yogurt was the first night that I had it, I woke up the next morning with this great big pimple here, which is healing now, but big pimple. And then the next day I got one here, and then I got all these little ones on the side of my face. And so, yeah, pimples have been a thing over the last, since I've been on Carnivore, prior to Carnivore as well, I used to get a lot of blind pimples, and that's kind of what these were. And they've been off and on through Carnivore, but I've had lots of kind of funny skin issues going on in my face, I think, with oxalate dumping and that as well. But I think that, even when I was doing the eating cheese and all that sort of thing, I think that was probably contributing to the little bits of acne kind of thing that are coming on. 60 years old, it's the youth coming out of me, obviously. But yeah, so dairy, I don't know whether the raw dairy does it. I'll have to experiment with that later, or whether it's just pasteurized, because this was just pasteurized yogurt that I bought from the supermarket, a Greek yogurt. So it might just be that. It could be the difference between the A1 and the A2 proteins in the milk too, because this would have been probably A1, and I didn't even think about looking for an A2 yogurt. I just bought a Greek yogurt because that's what I wanted. So, yeah, it could be that. So going forward, my plan is, as I said, I'm going to go back to 1 or 2 meals a day, and I'm still going to track all my macros. I'm going to stick with a higher fat version of Carnivore, higher fat than what I was eating. See, the whole time I've been on Carnivore, I've been kind of fairly lowish fat, because with the diarrhea and everything that was going on my bowel, I just couldn't eat too much fat, because it would have me at the toilet way more. So it's good to finally be able to consume larger amounts of fat. I'm finding that it really helps my mental state. So like this morning, I was sitting there and I was using my red light, doing some red light therapy, and I said to hubby, I feel so chilled this morning. And for me, that's an unusual thing. That's one of the reasons I used to drink so much, was because it was the only way that I could kind of wind down. Like I just was always, especially in social situations, or when I had to be with other people, there was always just this underlying anxiety, this tension. And so drinking really was the way that I used to manage that. But no more. And so for me at the moment, things are a lot better, but I still kind of have this discomfort off and on. And having my bowel settled really helps. But that feeling of comfort and calm is an unusual thing for me. So I notice it when it happens, and I've been getting it off and on. And this morning it was definitely there, because I had a super high fat meal last night. It was so much fat. I did some beef ribs from one of my son's cows, and I cut a lot of the fat off, because the fat on it was this thick, and the last time I cooked them, it wasn't good because it was just too much. So, and I did them, slow cooked them in the oven with lots of butter and some meat broth in there, and salt and garlic powder, and they were so good. Just falling off the bone, but still there was lots and lots of fat in the meat, and so there was tons of fat in that meal last night. Plus I had some butter and lard mayo with it, and then I had my bone broth protein powder with butter blended in that. So there was lots of fat, and so yeah, the bowel was a little bit loose this morning, but yeah, nothing that was a problem, and definitely not diarrhea. So things are working so much better. It's fantastic. I'm really, really happy about that. And so yeah, so I'm going to continue with more fat than I was eating, and I'm going to keep tracking, because I think part of my problem has been over the 2 years is when I was doing one meal a day, sometimes I just wasn't eating enough, and that's really common. But I didn't realize that I wasn't, because it looked like a lot of food on my plate, and because I was eating not a whole lot of fat, then that was, it's hard to get to the number of calories that you need a day to be able to, for your body to be, functioning correctly, I guess, especially with a sluggish thyroid. So yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to keep tracking, and I'm going to probably test my insulin again in probably about 3 months and see where that's at, and see if what I'm doing now is working. So, because ideally I'd like to get my insulin into the optimal range, and fingers crossed that I will eventually be able to do that. So optimal is between 0 and 5 years, between 2 and 5 international units per milliliter, according to Common Sense Labs. So I've got a little ways to go, but I'm in the standard range still, even though it's gone up. So I'm happy with that. Like if the doctor looked at that, they'd go, "Yeah, you're fine." The normal GPs, but yeah, I'd rather be in the optimal range. So that's what I'm aiming for, and I don't know how long it's going to take to get there, but we will see. So that's my update with my diet and my blood test. I'm in the process at the moment of making a video talking about my lifelong weight battle, and about lipedema, and why I think I have that. Showing some photos that I've been thinking about showing for a little while. They're just not real comfortable with showing, but I've been cutting and putting this together. It's a bit of a mission putting this video together, but yeah, it'll be up in the next day or two, I think, or at least by the end of the weekend, and so watch out for that one. So if you like this video, make sure to subscribe, like and share with anyone you think might be interested. If you've got any comments or questions, do put those below, and I will get to those as soon as I can. I thank you very much for watching and listening to me today, and I will talk to you again another day. Goodbye for now.